Welcome into Golden State Warriors today by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. No matter where you're watching or how you're watching, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. We have a loaded show on tap for you, and we start off with this question. Should and will the Golden State Warriors draft Kai Sotto out of the Philippines in the first or second round of June's NBA draft? Now, as for the Warriors draft picks and where they're going to be selecting come June 23rd, that's when the NBA draft is going to take place. They have a first-round pick at 28th overall, even though they're bound to go to the NBA Finals, and then two second-round picks at 51 as well as 55. Now, I don't think it's a good idea to draft and pinpoint Kai Sotto in the first round at 28th overall. I do think there will be an opportunity to maybe select him when the 51st overall selection comes around and maybe even the 55th overall pick. Now, throughout today's show, we'll give you a scouting breakdown of Kai Sotto because he certainly is an intriguing prospect in this draft class, and his potential is enormous, especially considering the fact that the Golden State Warriors do as good of a job among all teams in the NBA of developing talent, and they have a need to fulfill in that front court with depth that Kai Sotto would be able to fulfill. And if he has to play at the NBA G League level, that's fine, because down the road, this guy could be an impactful rotational backup big man. As for Kai Sotto and what's going on with his pre-draft process, this coming from Philstar Global, a Filipino publication, according to his agent, Joel Bell, NBA scouts were, quote, very enthusiastic about the 7'3" big man and had even secured a guarantee with one team that they will pick Kai Sotto once the draft rolls on. Now, that looks as though it's a potential mystery team that is going to select Kai Sotto. Could one of those teams be the Golden State Warriors? Not only do they do a good job of identifying talent in the middle to later portions of the first round, as well as finding impactful players in the second round, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, they do a really good job of finding talent in the international pool as well. So I can guarantee you, they've done some research, they've done some intel on Kai Sotto. As for what his agent had to say about some of these interested teams in the polarizing prospect, his agent said teams that scouted Australia this year, because he's playing for the New Zealand Breakers, g'day mate, which surprisingly, given the history of Australia, sending players to the NBA is not as extensive as one might imagine, were very enthusiastic about Kai. That's why we have so many teams that want to bring him in for individual workouts, and we actually already have commitments from at least one team that said if he stays in the draft, we will draft him. We have that already. So it looks as though Kai Sotto has at least one team that is interested in taking him. And I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick, which might be good news for the Warriors if they do want to select him in the second round with one of those two second-round picks. Of course, he does have the opportunity to continue to play internationally. He's been playing in Australia in the NBL, which is one of the best international leagues in the world. And that is a good level of competition for him to measure up against to see if he could play at the NBA level. And if he can't, then he can just go back to playing international hoops to work on his game just a little bit. Now, I want to ask you a question about Kai Sotto, because I know we have a lot of people who are tuned in from the Philippines, and this would be a Filipino making it to the NBA. I understand that Jalen Green last year has Filipino ties to his family, but we're talking about a true Filipino here in Kai Sotto, and a lot of our fan base is dedicated and tuned in from the Philippines. So do you want the Warriors to draft Sotto? I want you to like the video and hit that thumbs up icon for yes. If you don't want the Warriors to draft him, I want you to comment why right now in the comment section. Coming up next on the show, does Sotto to the Dubs make sense, and what can he bring to the floor for the Golden State Warriors? We're also going to talk about Gary Payton II and whether or not he's going to come back for the NBA Finals. But first, here's more on Sotto, just scouting him. He's 7'2", 7'3", checking in at about 240 pounds. He's playing right now for the Adelaide 36ers. If I said the New Zealand Breakers, I apologize earlier. Playing for the Adelaide 36ers. He's 20 years old, so he's still young. born in '02, which is crazy. That makes me feel really old because I was born in '92. He's not the most athletic or agile big man, and he needs to improve on his footwork. Sometimes he can get a little bit slow, especially on some switches, but has a really good knack for blocking shots, is a pretty solid rim protector, and has really perfected throwing down putback dunks as he kind of hangs out around the rim because he's not really a perimeter player, nor does he shoot a lot of three-pointers. As for what he's been able to do for the Adelaide 36ers, 7.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds. He's connected on about 50% of his field goals, which is good for him because he does primarily play right around the rim. And while he only gives them about a block per night, I think the block numbers are actually, they show to be a little bit worse than they actually are. When I watch him, I think he has more potential as a shot blocker at the NBA level. I think he can give you about a block or a block and a half per night, depending on his playing time, because he does make plays on the basketball as a defensive player because he is so big. And he doesn't need to be all that bouncy, right? Like, because of his size and because of his length, he can really protect the rim and go up against bigs. He'll fare well against a player like Rudy Gobert, but against a player like the Joker, against a player like Joel Embiid, where he has to get out to the three-point arc to defend them, and then they might be able to beat him off the dribble, that's where some of these concerns come in. I'd bank on the Warriors player development to bring the best out of Sotto. If they were to draft him, even if he doesn't really play that much, or if he goes back and forth between the NBA level and the G League level, the Warriors do such a great job of developing players over time. That's why this dynasty is what it is with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and then this new wave of young players like Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. And look what they've done with the journeyman player like Gary Payton II. If you're subscribed to us here on Golden State Warriors Today, I want all of you loyal subscribers to get into the comment section right now and type gang. I want you to show me that you're a loyal subscriber. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so right now. We're pushing out multiple videos per week. This is the best Warriors channel right here on YouTube. So if you're a ride or die, or if you want the best Warriors coverage year round, just hit that red subscribe button. Yeah, you can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Rumble as we continue to grow to the platforms that you as the people use. And on Rumble, we're leading NBA Now, our flagship show here at Chat Sports, as well as the Lakers Report. And we want to continue to get even more followers. Free and uncensored content on Rumble, sports news, politics, tech, and business videos as well. We continue to grow to the platforms that our viewers use, so make sure you give us a follow by going to rumble.com/WarriorsTV. That link is in the comment section and the description of this video. Appreciate all of you for watching us here at Chat Sports on Golden State Warriors Today. As we bring you the latest Warriors news and rumors, let's hit on Gary Payton II. The Warriors are going to the NBA Finals, and it's going to be a really fascinating matchup. And are they going to get back one of their top and premier wing defenders in Gary Payton II? There's optimism, according to Shams Charania, that GP2 will return for Game 1 of the NBA Finals, which tips off later this week on Thursday. He suffered a fractured elbow in Game 2 of the Western Conference semifinals against the Memphis Grizzlies on a play in which he caught the ball in transition. He was about to rise up for one of those patented Gary Payton II slams. Dillon Brooks hit him hard. His elbow kind of fell back behind him, and because of that, there was a dislocation and a fracture. But the good news is for Gary Payton II, he's been fast-tracking his recovery, and he could return for Game 1. If not Game 1, he will be on this team and playing during the NBA Finals against either the Boston Celtics or the Miami Heat as we record this on Sunday, Game 7 coming up in just a couple of hours. As for what Gary Payton II said about that hit that he took from Dillon Brooks, a lot of people thought it was dirty. GP2, he's all good with it. He said, for the record, no bad blood between me and Dillon Brooks. After we closed out Game 6, I got word that he wanted to talk outside the locker room, and when I got there, he apologized. I give Dillon a lot of credit for that. No text, no social media, nothing indirect. He came in person. We talked like grown men. He told me he didn't mean to hurt me. That's a good move for Dillon Brooks. He's not a stiff and he's not soft. He confronted Gary Payton II and he told him, look, man, I'm sorry. And at the time, that was a big blow for the Warriors because they needed Gary Payton II's defense going up against Ja Morant. As it turned out, Morant ended up getting injured with that knee bruise a couple games later, and they didn't need Gary Payton II as much defensively, and then Andrew Wiggins was really able to step up. But also, it was unfortunate considering the NBA career that Gary Payton II has had up to this point. 2017 to 2021, he was defined as a journeyman at the NBA level, as evidenced by the numbers and all of the teams that he played for and his path, playing at the NBA level as well as the G League level. He struggled to carve out a path for himself, but then he carved out a role with the Warriors team that is now bound for the NBA Finals. This year, 7 points per game, 3.5 rebounds as a really good player coming in off the bench. A steal and a half per night is exceptional, connected on about 61.5% of his shots and nearly 36% from the floor. All of those numbers, up and down, all across the board, much better than what he did from 2017 to 2021. If he's able to be healthy and he's able to get back to being his normal self, Gary Payton II and his impact will be felt defensively going up against either Miami or the Boston Celtics. No matter what team it is, both teams are pretty stacked at those wing positions, and GP2, he can basically play any position on the floor. There were times this past year where he played a little five-man in a small ball lineup. Crazy to think about, but because he's so bouncy, he did, and he actually fared pretty well. Speaking of the NBA Finals, I want you to get your predictions in. I think no matter which team the Warriors play, they're going to win the championship. If it's against the Boston Celtics, I think it goes 7 with the Warriors winning. Miami Heat, I think it's a 5 or 6 game series. Will the Warriors win the NBA title? Give me a W for win or an L for lose. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel as we continue to grow like crazy and close in on 30,000 subscribers. If you made it up to this point, thank you so much for watching today's show. I know that you're a part of the Dub Nation family here at Chat Sports. Let's continue to grow because more subscribers equals more content for Dub Nation.